Dear clients, dear all, welcome to this webinar. In the next 45 minutes, we will walk you through the key aspects of the transition to T+1 settlement. Before focusing on the content, allow me a little reminder on the technical and organizational part. This session will be recorded, and the recording will be made publicly available on Clearstream website shortly after the session. During this webinar, we'll try to answer the question that you've already posted during your registration. Any question that cannot be answered in this session will be taken up afterwards. Having said that, let's get started. So during this webinar, I will be supported by my colleagues who will guide you through the respective domains of expertise. Banu Appers, Philippe Branco, Lulia Petit, and Amaury Dandé. This webinar will provide you with an overview of different topics where T+1 has an impact. Together, we will cover today, settlement and affirmation, securities lending and borrowing, collateral management, asset servicing, client forex service, and then T+1, some market insight on Canada, Mexico, and Argentina. I will now start with the overview on settlement and affirmation. On the left-hand side of the slide, we provided you with the list of instruments in scope of T+1 for the US. Just to be noted that Fed-eligible instruments such as Treasury bill, Treasury notes are out of scope. I believe this answers one of your questions here. Let's see what are the main operational impacts. T+1 aims to reduce the time frame for a trade to be agreed between the parties on trade dates. In terms of type of transaction, T+1 targets OTC and stock exchanges against payment transaction only, so free of payment or out of scope here. As you all know, T+1 will be launched on 28th of May 2024, and all trade concluded on this business day will have the settlement date 29th of May. Today, I'd like to focus mainly on the affirmation process, which appear to be a new feature for many non-US banks. This process seems still to trigger quite a few questions on our side, on everyone's side actually. So let's see what is an affirmation. It's like a pre-matching to ensure that both counterparties are effectively in agreement with the trade details prior to the effective settlement. The affirmation is performed in DTC system, DTC being the clearing unit of DTC, while the settlement is occurring via DTC, which is the post-trading platform. To be noted that in Europe, in many countries in general, pre-matching is occurring in the post-trading platform. The US have here built a different model. In the T+2 environment, the affirmation process already exists, so this is not a new process. However, one key element introduced by the US regulator for T+1 is that the affirmation will become a regulatory requirement for the US broker and for the registered investment advisors, the so-called RIA. So with T+1, affirmation is and become a mandatory requirement for US broker and RRS as defined by the SEC. So affirmation is not mandatory, as you will have understood, for everyone, and to answer another questions you had. For the time being, there are no penalties nor charges if the affirmation is not completed. However, we understand from discussion with some certain US association like SIFMA that there will be a monitoring on the US broker and that the affirmation should become part of our BAU process. Another question you had as well is what is the new affirmation deadline? The new affirmation deadline is 21 EST on trade date, which makes 3 a.m. CET on T+1. This is the ultimate deadline on the US market. To come back on Clearstream affirmation process, we offer two models, which I will develop in the next two slides. The first model, our custodian in the US, Citi, will perform the affirmation on behalf of the client. The second model, you as client have also the option to self or auto-affirm, and this directly through the DTC system. Let's see now in a little bit more details how this two affirmation process works in the next two slides. So we already here have the slides for the first model. And here in this model, Citi US as our custodian perform the affirmation on your behalf. The first above part of these slides provides all data and SSIs, so the standing settlement instruction, that you need to provide to your broker and which need to be updated within the alert system. So what is the alert system? It's an online DTC industry database for maintenance and communication of accounts and for the associated SSI. Also, a very important concept to be familiar with is the trade suit ID. What is a trade suit ID or TSID? It's an identifier used by the DTC system to recognize and distinguish between parties to a trade. CBL has already a TSID, which is 64005. However, each client can also obtain its own TSID by engaging directly with DTC. All other info are linked to Citi, so the agent ID number, the DTC participant number, Clearstream account with Citi, and your Clearstream account number. All of this consists of the SSI that must be updated with the alert system to ensure a smooth process. The second part of the slides describe the process steps and the responsible parties. So this process consists of a three-steps approach. First, allocation, followed by confirmation, and then affirmation. So I will detail all those three different steps. The first one, so allocation of the trade. Both parties allocate and define the details of the trades. At this stage, you will have to inform your broker and update the alert system with the relevant mentioned SSIs. We encourage you to ensure that the above data is exactly recorded, as we were advised that some updates or adjustments still need to be made. The second step is the confirmation. Based on all these trade details, the US broker issues a confirmation, which is a key step here. The affirmation, otherwise the affirmation cannot be processed. The US broker will have to initiate the confirmation by the affirmation deadline, which is 21 EST on trade date. In parallel, Clearstream client, so you will have to send us your SWIFT settlement instruction 541 or 543 by Citi deadline, which is 2045 EST trade date. To be noted that your settlement instruction will have to be duly provisioned either with cash or securities by this cutoff time of 2045 EST on trade date. Very important here, you have a 5 hours and 15 minutes buffer to be able to provision your account either with cash or securities. So i.e. between the start of Clearstream provisioning period and the affirmation cutoff. The third step, so here Citi takes action and process the affirmation based on two important elements. So first one, the receipt of your valid SWIFT instruction and upon receipt of the broker confirmation. And to be able to do this, Citi has a direct connection to DTC. Citi will then release the settlement instruction to DTC. You will receive some settlement report via MT548 with status match or not match, or in case you have not instructed, an acknowledgement message via MT578 will be sent. Upon completion of settlement, the usual confirmation message MT54X will be released. Some key points to keep in mind. The settlement is processed separately at DTC. The affirmation does neither trigger nor guarantee the settlement. So if for any reason the affirmation cannot take place, the trade can still settle. The affirmation, however, increases the probability of settlement during the nighttime cycle of DTC, and it reduces the risk of failed transactions. Let's now move on to the second model. So here the affirmation is performed by yourself as client. I'd like to focus here on the main differences from the previous models. I know it's a lot of technical details, so let's focus on the difference. In the scenario, in this one, you will have to engage directly with DTC and obtain your own TSID. For this process, we remain agnostic on the affirmation process. So for those 3 steps described earlier, allocation, confirmation, and affirmation, they are all arranged between Clearstream, the US broker, and DTC. I meant by Clearstream client, so yourself, the US broker, and DTC. So Clearstream ourselves are not involved, nor Citibank. You will continue to send us your SWIFT settlement instruction by the standard US settlement deadline on settlement date. And in this model, there is no change to Clearstream provisioning and cash deadline. This is a main difference from the previous model where you have to send your settlement instruction by the affirmation cutoff deadline. So this was a recap of the 2 models we offer and we have in place as of T+1 implementation, i.e. on the 28th of May for the US, and this ends the settlement and affirmation part. Let me now introduce you to my colleague Banu for the securities lending and borrowing part.
Thank you, Isabel. Good morning, good afternoon. Moving on from the impact of transition to T+1 on settlement and affirmations to securities business level. Transition to T+1, the aim is to reduce the settlement risk while maintaining the system efficiency, enable the parties to manage their inventories on a timely basis. Shortening of the securities settlement cycle could have a significant impact on several trade processing areas, depending on the business model of the participant, such as the timing of various life cycle events, buy and sell timelines, confirmations, and moreover, on the recalls of the securities on loan. As part of Clearstream Securities Services, we provide various lending solutions to leverage the securities holdings of our clients and also increase the settlement efficiency. Looking at the life cycle events of a securities lending activity, the shortening of the settlement cycle across different markets is expected to compress the time frames for the identification and recall of the securities. In addition to the notification of the recall of securities, we also see an impact also on the initiation of the buy-ins at the back of a failing deliveries. In terms of recall notification, the ultimate objective is to notify the borrowers as early as possible to give them the sufficient time on day 1 of the recall to manage their inventory requirements. This would be giving them the opportunity either to buy or borrow the securities on the market which have been recalled. Various industry groups are working on the best practices, advising the market participants to issue the recall notices either by 7 p.m. Eastern Time as a best practice, but keeping in mind that the recalls can be issued up to 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. And the expectation is that the borrowers will utilize all reasonable efforts to attempt to return the securities on the next business day. On Clearstream side, as the market moved to shorter settlement timelines, There shall not be any change to our operational model of our lending solutions, other than we are improving our availability and service level. As of today, Clearstream lending solutions, let it be what we call strategic or fails coverage, operate based on a fully automated recall process in case of recalls due to the market side sale of the loan securities. In case of recalls triggered on a voluntary basis by the lenders, the communication is further supported by our operations team. Our system is designed to locate, calculate, and identify the possibility of sourcing the securities from alternative lenders, as known as lender substitution. In case of no lender substitution is available, the system creates an automatic recall notification to borrowers via Swift messaging and supported by an email to the dedicated teams. From an implementation perspective, to support the transition to T+1 settlements, as you've seen it on the slide, we have enhanced our recall timelines. The current recall notification timelines for DTCC eligible securities are extended from 3 p.m. Central Eastern Time for T+2 settlements up to 7:30 p.m. CET for T+1 settlement. And in case of recalls received after 7:30 p.m., the settlement will roll over to T+2. To facilitate the process and provide advice to our clients, we've been actively involved in various working groups and association discussions, and also we are in contact with various technology providers. Our aim is to continuously automate the process and integrate various vendor solutions active in the securities lending ecosystem. At this point, I hand over the T+1 topic to my colleague to discuss the impact on collateral management.
Good morning, good afternoon to all of you. On the collateral management side, the message is pretty simple, is that nothing will actually change. The reason being that our collateral management engine already works based on the settlement date, and the trade date on the engine itself is not a relevant aspect of it. So meaning that whether you decide to go for the early affirmation done by our custodian, or whether you do it yourselves, the settlement date is what triggers the recalls and the substitutions, meaning that it will start off at 9 p.m. CET on T+0 when the provisioning period opens, and it will those recalls, provided there's enough replacement collateral, will be handled straight away at that time. So you do have like Isabel was mentioning, the 5.25 of hours of settlement all the way to the affirmation deadline, the early affirmation deadline, or if you opt for the late one, that will still go on until the 8 p.m. on settlement date. The substitutions for short positions will be handled by the engine at the same time. So ultimately, that is the message that we are bringing. On the collateral management side, there is virtually no change, simply due to the fact that the trade date is not really an element that we take into account on the collateral management engine. With that message passed, I now pass the baton to my colleague Julia.
Thanks, Felipe. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. T+1 topic, it's not only settlement topic, it's also, as you already know, it's impacting asset servicing as well. With the T+1 migration, there would be change in the corporate action key dates. So basically, with settlement cycle T+1, the X date will be the same as the record date. This is what we expect to be announced by the U.S. issuers and the issuer CSD, which is DTCC. And this is what we, Clearstream, as investor CSD, plan to announce to our clients. This approach is supported by many market infrastructures and stakeholders in Germany and beyond. Just to give you the size of magnitude, we are talking here about thousands of US securities, which are currently held in Clearstream by our clients. And among those traded in Europe, 90% of them are traded on the stock exchanges in Germany. The alignment of the key dates between markets for a given security with the same ISIN is very important. It's really to ensure that there is no distortion of the shareholder rights and there is no confusion between different intermediaries active in different areas of trading activity or post-trade, and also across markets. If there is this confusion, it might lead to break in the standard asset servicing flow and also some different issues. We can already observe that the event notification that we received for the dividend payment for post T+1 period, they are all mentioning X date being the same as the record date. What is also happening is that the notification that we received previously and mentioning X date being before record date, they are updated by the issuers via the replacement that we receive currently as well. Now, as Europe would remain operating with a settlement cycle T+2, there would be, however, several side effects, I would say, especially for the transactions settling around the corporate action key dates. And this would remain until T+1 is live in Europe. I will explain. If today in Europe a transaction which is with a trade date on X date -1 has a lot of chance to settle on record date, as of end of May, with a migration to T+1, the same trade would remain pending on record date due to this longer settlement cycle in Europe. As a result, the cum trades, this cum trade which is unsettled would be eligible to the market claim if it's impacted by if this trade is impacted by the distribution event. In such case, Clearstream will detect and generate market claim on those trades, and this would be done in line with the market rules and in line with the corporate action standards. What would happen is that as soon as the underlying transaction settles, Clearstream will generate the market claims between two counterparties as a gross, and then the tax adjustment would be generated to each counterparty depending on their fiscal status. What I mentioned is fully applicable to internal trades. For the bridge transactions, they would be only subject to detection of market claims as no market claim process with Euroclear. And for the external trades, they would be compensated upon receipt of confirmation from the market. Regarding the transformation, so basically the pending instructions impacted by the reorganization events, they will be cancelled and there would be no reinstruction as there is no transformation process in US. In any case, both market claims and cancellation would be notified to our clients via corporate action and settlement reporting. And it's key that there is a good communication between corporate action and settlement team at your side. With the move to T+1, it is possible that there are some other impacts on asset servicing, like the event notification might be released with a one-day delay if they are driven by the X date. It is also possible that regarding the corporate action deadline, there would be some impact. So the clients who implemented the buyer protection services, they need to adjust the calculation of the buyer protection key dates at their site. What I mentioned, those are known impacts. However, there are some points that are still under discussion at industry level and currently being discussed between different associations like EXDA, AFME, FESE, and Corporate Event Joint Working Group. The main Clearstream and generally speaking Deutsche Börse, they are taking active part of those discussions. The main point of the discussion is application of the corporate action key dates for the multi-listed securities. So some markets are planning to anticipate the X date by one business day before record date, and this is to accommodate the T+2 settlement cycle in Europe. What would happen? So as the portion of the securities are held by Clearstream with other European CSDs and agents, how the corporate action key dates are would be announced for those securities, it really depends on which information we would receive from those CSDs and agents. The discussion about the different impacts is currently ongoing with different associations. And to be complete, so this was what I mentioned was one of the main points of this discussion, but to be complete, there is also discussion currently ongoing with different associations is the application of the corporate action key dates, this time for the European equities listed in US. But this is not a primary focus of our webinar. To conclude, I encourage all our clients to read the information that we published on our website and to adapt their systems and processes accordingly to be ready for the migration to T+1 by end of May. In case of specific reporting needs or questions, please do not hesitate to contact us and we will be happy to discuss further. And now I hand over to my colleague Amaury to talk about the impacts on the client Forex services.
Thank you, Julia.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So for the FX service, along with the T+1 changes related to securities, we have also adjusted the FX product and enabled a T+1 FX flow. On the slide you have in front of you, you can see the different channels that we support today and we will continue to support in the future. These channels include the FX link to securities settlement instructions, auto FX, and case-by-case FX. We want to assure you first that the customer deadline for FX will remain unchanged at 11:30 CET. Today, we are providing the option for customers to instruct T+2 by default, but we have also added a selection of currencies where customer can instruct T+1. On the slide, you can see a number of major currencies as well as exotic currencies such as Thai baht or IDR. We will enable T+1 as of 20th of May for manual FX instructions via Swift messages, and as of 1st of July for the FX link to security settlement transactions. We encourage you as customers to review your funding needs and processes that require FX. We recommend that you use Clearstream services and especially the FX link to security settlement instructions that will allow you to match value dates T+1, ensure funding and defunding in due time, and ensure smooth settlement. We are always here to help and more than happy to engage with customers individually to provide support, including testing if required. Now I would like to pass the presentation over to Isabel, who will provide a brief outlook on other markets.
Thank you, Amaury. So to end this session, last part, some insights now for Canada, Mexico, and Argentina. For both Canada and Mexico, T+1 will be implemented on 27th of May, so one day prior to the US market, 27th May being a holiday, so Memorial Day in the US. The instrument in scope of T+1 for Canada and Mexico were defined by the respective local authorities. And to recall that there is no affirmation process for those markets, affirmation being effectively unique to the US. For Canada, one point to keep in mind, the trade matching deadline will change from 12 Eastern Standard Time on T+1 to 3:59 a.m. ET on T+1. For Argentina, let me share with you some very recent news. The local authorities recently approved that T+1 migration will take place in May 2024. They wish to align with the US, Canada, and Mexico, and the intended migration date is to be 27 May 2024, so like Canada and Mexico. As this is pretty recent, we expect to receive additional information on Argentina in the forthcoming days. We will now close the session, but as announced at the beginning, the questions that are still outstanding will be responded after this session separately. The recording of this session will be published in short time. There will be a news to inform you as soon as this is available. As Julia mentioned it earlier, we invite you to review our FAQs documents dedicated to the US, Canada, and Mexico, and that are available on Clearstream website, documents that are regularly updated. If you have any further questions, please feel free also to contact your client services colleagues and your relationship manager, who will be happy to advise you on your individual topics. It's now time for me to thank you all for participating in this webinar, and I wish you a very good remainder of the day. Thank you.